Welcome to the Momming with Jesus podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Hargrove. On this show, I help moms discover Jesus in their motherhood. I hope this show encourages you in your mom journey. Enjoy the message. The title of our message today is called Family Dysfunctions. Okay, look, I told y'all earlier, we're going to go a little deep today, okay? I hope y'all don't mind. We're going to kind of go to those places in our heart that maybe are a little sensitive, okay? And it's okay. It's going to be okay, and I hope that's okay with you, but that's what we're doing. But we're going to talk about our family dynamics and dysfunctions, okay? I am not saying that all of us here have a dysfunctional family, okay? That's not the norm. I'm not saying that. But every family, even the best of families, the most close-knit, healthy, we're all human. And inside each and every family, there's a little thing here and there that needs to be worked on, right? Hey, that's just the truth. Family can be such a beautiful yet complicated thing sometimes, right? And all of us have unique upbringings. Not one of them are the same compared to the next. Some of us might have similarities in our upbringing, but they are all different. And today we're actually not going to necessarily talk about our own family, whether it's with our marriage and our own children, majority of this message. We're actually going to talk about the family that we were birthed into, our parents specifically, right? And some of us here, maybe you grew up in a stable, a safe, and a loving home. That's beyond beautiful. And some of us here grew up in the complete opposite, where the home was maybe not a place of comfort, but a place of fear. And maybe you grew up right in the middle. It's like a little healthy, a little safe, a little weird, a little, dysfunctional, like a nice little mixture. But here's the thing, as we grow up, we become adults and we become even mothers. But here's one thing I've noticed. We still long for the love and support and affection of our parents specifically, okay? Of our family, yes, but of our parents. But what do we do when our parents may not give us the support that we expected? Or when our parents are absent and maybe oblivious to our need for them? Or, of course, even deeper, when our parents have passed from this life to the next, and there's just a hole in our hearts as we mourn their loss, right? Today, we're going to talk about the absence of our parents in various forms. We just gave examples of what those forms might look like, right? When even in our adult years, our hearts continue to desire connection with them. The desire to be connected to our parents will never leave. We are still a child to somebody, even when we are adult. If you're like, man, I don't know why I still want my parents, I don't even care. It's because we're called to still be connected to them, right? We all desire that. It's natural to desire connection with our parents, and it's natural for us to want them to be involved in our lives, and even more so the lives of our children. And it simply hurts when they're not. It just hurts, period. And granted, I know that some of us here may feel super grateful for the fact that they are blessed with active, present, and loving parents, even in their adult years. And that is something that we should praise God for, because that is a beautiful blessing. And this message still has many words of encouragement for all of our family dynamics, whether you have a healthy, close-knit relationship with your parents, or maybe it's far from it. This week, I specifically was reflecting on this topic personally, right? I was thinking about some things and I was praying. I was doing my makeup one morning and I was thinking about it, and I was just thinking about it some more, okay? And I felt a little upset. And I'm going to be honest, I felt a little like bitter and even resentful, if I can be honest with y'all. And I was actively praying for it in that moment though, because I was like, you know what, God, like I'm noticing I feel these ways. And I stopped and I said, God, I don't want to feel bitterness or resentful towards my parents. These are the parents you've given me. I want to see things with your eyes and your heart. Okay. And I asked him in that moment to give me wisdom and to speak to me in that moment to help my perspective. I wanted to see things differently. I knew what I felt, but I was like, I need you to speak to me. And as I prayed that, I expected his wisdom to unfold over time. Sometimes you say a prayer like, God, show me, and you don't necessarily feel it or see it right away. And as time goes on, you feel like it just is revealed to you, right? Well, I just assumed that. So I expected it to unfold as time went on and as my day went. But all of a sudden in that moment, I'm just putting on my contour, right? And I'm just like, I just felt God speak to me so quickly. And what he said was not what I expected. Okay. Instead of giving me advice of what to do, like Jesus saying, okay, well, what you need to do is do this to feel better, or how to fix it, etc. He actually, in that moment for me, I felt him show me how he just simply understood and even how he relates. Did you know that Jesus understands and he gets it and he even relates to those empty feelings and those yearnings, even for parents? He revealed to me how he understood what it was like to not have family support. Did you know that there's as he's walking the earth and he's discipling the disciples and he's healing the sick and doing all this, there's a verse where he's talking to some people and he tells them this: a prophet is not accepted in his own hometown. He's telling him that sometimes the familiarity within you, between you and your parents and your family, you would think that they would be the first to accept and support you and be there for you and love you, but sometimes it's those that you're closest to that don't. He understood because he was that prophet. He was a Messiah, but he was that man of God that people saw him coming in doing miracles. And it said in his own hometown, he was able to do the least of miracles because of their lack of belief. He knew what it was like for his parents to not fully understand his pursuits and even to try to talk him out of doing what he's called to do. There are points where he's ministering to people and his mom and his brothers and sisters are in the back like, Jesus, this is enough. Come and eat. You're going to starve. Like, you need to stop. And he literally stopped and said, who is my mother and brother? It's all of you who are here today listening to me, doing God's will. That wasn't saying he was rejecting his family, but what he was saying is even in those moments, he was misunderstood by his family. I could go on, right? He knew what it was like to be abandoned. When he was on the cross, he literally said, God, why have you forsaken me? He knew what it was like to be betrayed, to be alone, and to long for comfort. And as we continue to discuss this topic, I'm going to share more insight about what I felt God spoke to my heart and the things that I feel God wanted me to share with you today. And I believe that he wants to offer comfort to your yearning heart and a new perspective to maybe your slightly frustrated soul. Okay? Again, this message is for all of us, depending on what dynamic you have. There is messages, there are scriptures, there are points within this message that God is going to speak to your heart. And so we have 3 points today. And the first one is expectations versus reality. Let's preach that, right? The second one is never stop praying. And the last one is comforted by Christ. Okay. So let's get right into expectations versus reality. We're going straight in. Okay. Here's the thing is we all have expectations of others. We have expectations of our spouse, of our kids, of our friends, our family, even ourselves. Our expectations are things that we desire from these relationships with pure intentions. We just have these expectations. Like with your husband, I just want to be loved. Simple expectation, right? But it is so common for many of these expectations to not be met. One, because a lot of times they're unspoken, they haven't been communicated, and they're not understood by the other person. But number two, these people on the other side of our expectations, they aren't perfect, and they aren't even called to fill each and every expectation that we have. But regardless of those truths, it is hard to accept it when these expectations didn't become a reality. For example, there are many expectations we have for many different people in our life. For example, you might have expected, you have children, you become a mother, and you naturally expected, well, my parents are going to be there. They're going to be present. They're going to come to every game, every birthday. They're going to simply be a part of their life. They're going to come and help when I'm, bring a fresh newborn home. They're going to do this. I just expected them to be there. But what if the reality ended up being opposite? And they were well and able, but they didn't make those things a priority for whatever reason. How does that make you feel truthfully? It can make you feel bitter, mad, resentful, frustrated, right? Or what if you have a parent who continues to promise certain things? I'm going to support you. I'm going to be there for your family, but yet never delivers. What if they, talk a lot, they have good intentions, but they don't have great follow through? And you continue to give grace over and over. But how does your heart continue to cope with that feeling? The truth is, there's a billion examples. I don't know all of your stories, and I don't know all of your expectations for your own family and your own parents. You might be thinking of different situations of expectations like, oh, you know what? I did expect this and that didn't really happen, or I did expect this. But what do we do when our expectations of our parents don't line up with reality? That's a hard one to process. Okay? Because we all know this, right? I hope that we all know this, is that we can't change anyone. I think by this point in all of our lives, we might have realized we cannot change anyone. And that's a universal truth. Okay? We know we can't force anyone to care. We can't force anyone to show up. We can't force someone to be something they're simply not, no matter how hard we try. Or if we're mourning a parent who passed, the hard reality is we can't bring them back until we see them again in eternity. And all of these dynamics deal with mourning what is not, the absence of something we are yearning for, expectations versus reality. And so what do we do? What do we do when we have these expectations and reality is not lining up? And our heart is feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling bitter, resentful, frustrated, not valuable, unseen, not worthy. I mean, the feelings go deep if you really want to dissect it. What do? We have to take our expectations, those good and pretty expectations, and we got to put them to the side. That doesn't mean that you don't deserve the love, support, and presence of your parents that you desire, because you do. Okay? It simply means that you have to put them to the side for your own heart, to guard your heart and allow your heart to accept what is and be content with it. Years ago, I was once in this counseling group. It was like a group and we were doing like practicing counseling. If you haven't heard of Sozo prayer, I totally encourage you to go check it out. It's like this spiritual prayerful counseling session. I've done it a couple times and it's amazing. So if you want more information on that, I'll send you a link. Okay. So that's what we were doing. And they shared this concept with me. And the concept was surrendering my expectations over to Jesus. This simple piece of advice I have literally carried with me for years, and I have had to reuse it over and over. I have had to surrender and give up and hand over these expectations to Jesus, because when we constantly expect something from someone who simply cannot deliver, we are constantly disappointed, and it makes room in our heart for bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness, and it's exhausting. So number one, to answer our question, what do we do, is surrender expectations. It's not easy. It's not beautiful. It's not this cute little thing. No, we got to say, this is what I expected. And now I give it to you, Jesus, because it's not happening. I'm going to give it to you. Number two is accept what is. Okay. What does that mean? If your parent can only give you 20%, accept it. Be grateful and content with the 20% instead of constantly yearning for the 80%. Look, and I'm being sensitive. There are situations and dynamics where you have to have really strong boundaries with even parents, unfortunately, to the point where that is between your discretion. That's between you and God. There are some situations where it's healthier to just not have communication with them for ongoing, so long, I don't know, but that's a sensitive subject. And I'm not saying just accept it. If they are very abusive and just not life-giving, then you might need to have space. I'm not speaking to that right now. That's for you to use wisdom. I'm speaking to simply the parents who can give you 20%, maybe because they're struggling with depression, maybe because they're struggling with PTSD, maybe because they are struggling to love themselves and don't know how to love, maybe because they're struggling with addiction and they want to be there, they want to love you, but they are still trying to fight through to freedom. Maybe they can only give 20% because they're struggling. That's what I'm speaking to. Choosing to be grateful for the 20% will change your perspective completely, and you will turn from being bitter to grateful for what they do give. And if they give nothing, then release that over to Jesus and be reassured that you are worth it all, even still. And I know that these pieces of advice aren't cute and sweet, but more so a hard choice to make. Because what you could do is you could be mad, you can be angry, you could be full of unforgiveness, you could cut them off and say, peace out. You could try to stick it to them, you could try to do things to hurt them back. But all of that is your choice. And you could even be justified. Well, they did this, so I'm over it. I am so done with them. I will never talk to them again. All these things, you can do that. But that is going to leave so much room for your heart to be tainted, for your heart to be filled with darkness and discouragement, and that will affect your life. You feel me? And I know that what I'm sharing so far doesn't offer the comfort you might be longing for, but it does offer the opportunity to strengthen and protect your heart. So bitterness and resentment does not make its home there. God didn't make a mistake when he chose our parents. And for some of us, you might be thinking like, I don't know. Some of you like, you're right. He didn't. Our parents were the perfect parents for us. Okay. But our parents are also 100% human with their own baggage full of issues that they're filtering through. And we are still called in the midst of this to honor and love our parents in the midst of it all. And it's not easy because we're all broken people trying to love and be loved by our family. And it gets messy and it requires processing, maturing, growing, understanding, extending tons and tons of love and forgiveness. But my encouragement for you today is to start here, surrendering expectations and accepting what is. This alone will protect your heart and give you the opportunity to see things just a little bit differently. Because at the end of the day, life is too short. Really take that with you today. You could cut them off for the rest of your life. But at the end of the day, life is too short. And I'm not saying everyone here wants to cut their parents off, guys. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that you could just not deal with things, or you could do dirty work and work on things, process things, because at the end of the day, you have the opportunity to try to have a relationship with the people you love and your parents, or cut it off, and that's it. What do you choose? Life is too short. Tomorrow is not promised. In Proverbs 4:23, it says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. I've shared this verse many times because it rings true to so many topics that we talk about. Guard your heart above all else. It determines the course of your life. Did you know what is in your heart truly affects your life? Whether it's joy and peace and forgiveness and love and mercy, it affects your life. Whether it's bitterness and resentment and anger, it affects your life, and you are in charge of guarding it because it will determine it. And the Bible also says, did you know one of the 10 commandments is honor your father and mother? Do you realize that is important to God? If there's 10 commandments and he said one of those has to be that, I think it's a little bit important, right? And here's the thing, it is not easy to do that when we're dealing with our own stuff. When we're dealing with our own, issues with our parents and hurts from our parents. And yeah, Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. And when we're dealing with those different things, it's not as easy to say, I honor you, mama and dada, but we are called to, and there is still a way. And I believe that as we choose to process these things, it allows us to do that. So expectations versus reality, right? Hello, beautiful souls. This community thrives on shared stories, laughter, tears, and the strength that we draw from God's word and each other. As we navigate the symphony of motherhood together, our mission is to uplift, support, and empower every mom listening. To keep our sanctuary vibrant and accessible, we are reaching out for your support. Whether you want to become a monthly supporter or by giving a one-time donation of the price of your favorite latte, your generosity helps us continue to bring content that touches the heart, nurtures the soul, and strengthens our faith and fellowship as moms. If our conversations have been a companion to you in your moments of need, joy, or reflection, consider contributing to our cause. Just visit laurenahargrove.com and find the support tab. It's quick, simple, and your support means the world to us and to mothers everywhere. Thank you for being a part of our journey, for sharing your highs and lows, and for momming with Jesus. Now let's return to today's episode. Now let's go on to our second point, and that is never stop praying. Okay? Never stop praying. What does that mean? What are we talking about? Sometimes we say, not sometimes, at Gravetop Church, represent something that we say a lot is never assume a result without adding the power of God to it. You like that country accent? I got more for you. Okay. I got you. Never assume a result without adding the power of God to it. When I think about this, as we discuss this topic today, I think about the true possibilities there are for relationships in our life, especially with our parents, to be healed, restored, transformed, and made better, and so on. And while it is important to release expectations and to not expect our parents to change and accept them for who they are, it is also important to still hold on to hope and to pray that things can change at the same time. Does that make sense? It is a two-sided coin. The first side says, the first point helps us to handle the present, which is surrendering and accepting. And on the other side of the coin, it gives us hope for the future. Does that make sense? No matter how strained the relationship, no matter how much hurt and pain there is, how many years have gone by without a single phone call, there is an opportunity for God to move. But in order for this to be a possibility, we have to, one, we have to allow God to heal and cleanse our heart from unforgiveness, to make room for restoration. There can't be restoration in a heart full of bitterness. It's either one or the other. And guys, I am not preaching to you. This is something God is speaking to me and I am processing. So I'm not saying here, you need to forgive. Okay. You need to do this. No, God is speaking to my heart too. I got to make room if I want to see God do what he can do. Okay. And so we are all working through this together. Number two, we shall never stop praying. Never stop praying for your family, no matter how much they might have hurt you. Okay? No matter how much, because if you only, I'm getting goosebumps right now, and I don't know, I think it's totally the Holy Spirit is wanting to get this out there. Man, I feel a little emotional. It's super weird. Okay. Never stop praying for your family, for your parents, for your relationships with them, because prayer changes things. And we know this. Prayer is not just words that go up into empty space. Prayer is a lifeline to the Father. It is a spiritual weapon that is used to destroy the plans of the enemy and to speak the plans of the Father. Prayer has the ability to change hearts, to call down angels, and to change outcomes for the better. Prayer is a powerful tool that is so easily underrated. I tell you the truth, I have prayed for years for certain family members on these specific topics, for them to be saved, for them to find Jesus, for them to be healed, for our family to be united again. I'm telling you, our family used to be a family years and years ago. And I'm praying right now for years and years that God would restore it. Years have gone by. Never stop praying. I have seen plenty of answered prayers right before my eyes when it comes to my family. I mean, I could sit here and tell you stories. I have stories, okay? But that would take a long time. But just know that I've seen them. But there are many prayers that I am still praying. And year after year, I'm telling you, every January we do a fast. I've been doing it since 2008, since I got saved, right? And every year I have prayed for, there's even right now, I can think of one thing I'm still praying for. And I put it on that list every time we do a 21-day fast. I'm putting it on this list because I'm believing it. This is going to come to pass. But one thing I know is prayer changes things, like I said. And some of our relational dysfunctions with our families, our parents, whoever you're thinking of, is far deeper than what we can see on the surface. Prayer is needed in some of these situations. Sometimes our parents and our families and our relationships, they need prayer. They need prayer that generational curses would be broken. For freedom from addiction, they need prayer for family members to be saved, for depression and anxiety to be rebuked, and so much more. And imagine this, imagine that there is a wall between you and this person, whoever you're thinking about, your mom, your dad, or someone else. And in order to break it, to see breakthrough, it requires your prayers. I mean, imagine that. A wall, your prayers is the thing that knocks it down so that the things can be restored. And so many times we just sit there and we wait and we hope things will be changed. We're just like, well, hopefully one day. I mean, one day she'll call me. I don't know. One day I'll forgive her. One day. And the enemy wants nothing more than to divide. That is literally his main focus, to divide our families and our relationship with God, our marriages, and our relationship with our parents. If you feel like you have been seeing a trend of division in your life, in different relationships, I want to tell you this. It's time to pray. Okay? That is the enemy making his way. He's trying to make his way in, but he will not prevail. You got to rise up and you got to pray. What he wants you to do is he wants you to see the division and say, you know what? They did make me mad. You know what? I don't want to talk to them. You know what? I'm so over it. I have said those very words. Okay. So I ain't no saint over here, but that's the enemy. Okay. It is time to pray, and not just a sappy prayer like, God, please help us, but a prayer of authority. Rebuke the enemy, declare his promises, believe God in his word, and imagine the answer to these prayers coming to pass. Imagine it. Your relationship with your parents and whoever else you might be thinking about, they're worth your time and energy in prayer. And like I said earlier, life is too short not to pray, not to hope, and not to believe that God can unite what the enemy tried to divide. You got that? God can unite what the enemy tried to divide. God has created us for a relationship with our parents, our spouses, our kids, and friends, and etc. So would it make sense that the enemy would try to come in and steal? But don't let him. And we're going to pray and never stop praying. In 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18, it says, always be joyful and never stop praying. Hey, that's not easy. Always be joyful and never stop praying, and be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you who belong to Christ Jesus. It says never stop praying. And sometimes we get tired, okay? It is hard to pray consistently. It is hard. But let this just be a reminder, like, you know what? I'm going to get my little prayer vibes back on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pray, whether you journal, where you say it out loud, where you say it before you go to bed, whatever it is, just don't stop praying. In John 10:10, it says, the thief's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. But my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. Do you hear that? The enemy, he wants to steal, he wants to kill, he wants to destroy. But you need to put your hand up and say, whatever made you a loser, okay? And say, God's purpose is to give us a rich and satisfying life. Do y'all remember that? Was it whatever made you a loser, right? To the enemy. We don't have time for that, right? So never stop praying, all right? And let's move on. I'm laughing at myself, guys. I hope someone laughed at me. Okay. Let's go on to our last point, and that is comforted by Christ. Okay. This one's going to get straight to your heart. In Psalms 27:9-10, it says, do not turn your back on me. Do not reject your servant in anger. You have always been my helper. Don't leave me now. Don't abandon me, O God, in my salvation. Here it is. Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close. Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close. There was a season in my life where this verse spoke so deeply to me, and it brought me to tears. There were several months that went on that I didn't hear from either of my parents. And this was actually a common trend throughout my life, if I'm being honest. And when I read this verse, specifically this one moment that I remember right now, it was right in the midst of months going by, not talking to them, not hearing from them. I felt God so near. I felt him offer me comfort and reveal to me that even then he was right there, because it felt lonely. It felt, I felt abandoned. I felt many different things. And not only was he there, but he was holding me. He was offering me the place of safety that I so desired. He was giving me the comfort that I yearned for. And he, in fact, was my father, my perfect father. Through those seasons of not being close to my family, my parents, is when I feel like the trueness of God being our father was made alive to me. It's like when we go through those kinds of seasons, we are able to see God in a whole different way. And it's not just this thought or an idea, but this revelation and something that we believe at our core. And I began to know him as my father. He would never promise and not deliver. He would never leave me no matter what. He does desire to be there in every moment of every day. He wants to be present, and he wants to be involved in my life and the life of my kids. He is a good, good father. And we have a hole in our heart from our earthly parents. He extends comfort to satisfy those yearnings. Why would this even be a verse in the Bible? Could it be that he knew there would be situations where parents abandon their children? Maybe emotionally, maybe it's physically, maybe it's practically, Maybe he knew some of us would wrestle with parental wounds throughout our life. And when he did, he wanted us to know that even then he would hold us close. So whether your parents have left this earthly home, or they simply are not a part of your life for whatever reason, or they're not as close to you as you hoped they weren't meeting your expectations of what you're yearning for, I want you to know today that he is holding you close. And here's the thing, that God fills those longings in this earthly life. And I have seen it time and time again. Look at what this verse says. In Psalm 68, 5-6, it says, he is a father to the fatherless. It says he is a defender of the widows. This is God whose dwelling is holy. God places the lonely in families. He sets the prisoners free and gives them joy, but he makes the rebellious live in a sun-scorched land. Let me say this again. God places the lonely in families. He sets prisoners free and gives them joy. And when I read this verse years ago, I remember reading it and being like, what? So he's my father. Like, I felt fatherless for a long time, right? Um, and he places the lonely in families. I didn't feel like I was able to be with my family, go to my family, celebrate with my family. And when I read this verse years ago, I looked up and I realized in that very moment that I was having dinner at my roommate's parents' house with her, enjoying their company of her amazing parents who took me in as their own. We would laugh, we would watch videos, these funny videos. We enjoyed delicious food together, and we began to spend weekends together. I remember looking forward to it. Be like, she had such amazing parents, like, hey, let's go over together. And we do life together. And they would call me like their second daughter. And I remember feeling so apart and so loved. And this was specifically in a season where I hadn't talked to my parents in so long. I felt lonely. And in that moment, when I read this verse during that season, I was like, oh my gosh, God knew the longings in my heart. And he so graciously allowed me to be a part of this family's life that took me in as their own and made me feel like a family that we were eating dinner together. We were laughing, we were joking, we were being family. And God did this. What he says in the Bible is true. He places the lonely in families. He is a father to the fatherless. I felt apart. I felt loved. And God showed me in that season the reality of this verse in my own life. And I've seen it in many seasons of my life. God fulfilling the desires for family in the most beautiful ways. And now when I sit at our dinner table each night, I'm so grateful. Even though it's crazy, the kids are yelling, they're going like level 3,000, probably 4,000, right? But I sit there many nights and I'm just looking at them like, look at this family that God has given me, a family of my own, a loving husband, beautiful children, 3 crazy, crazy dogs. But he has given me the opportunity to provide for my children a lifelong, healthy, and loving relationship with their parents. And I will be far from perfect. I am far from perfect, but I will try my best to give them what they deserve, a present, supporting, loving mother and father. And there is redemption in every story. When I sit there, even though I long sometimes to be able to celebrate holidays with family and all this good stuff, right? Every time I am reminded by God, I have given you a family. And this family, y'all will celebrate. And this family, y'all will be family. Y'all will do life together. Y'all will have many memories that are going to be built around this table. I have given you this right in front of you to make all things beautiful. So whether your relationship with your own parents is beautiful right now or strained, know that God holds you close. And tonight I want you to take a moment and look at what is right in front of you. The family he's given you, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's you and your one child. Maybe you're a single mom. Maybe you are married. Maybe you have tons of kids. Maybe you're longing for children. I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, choose to make the most out of what he's given you. This beautiful life he has given you. And so with all that being said, guys, we talked today about family dysfunctions. We all got them. We got crazy family dynamics. We're all trying our best out there. We talked about expectations versus reality. about when reality doesn't match up with what we expected from our parents and what to do with that, right? And we talked about never stop praying, that we shall never stop praying for our loved ones, for our family, for our parents, because God can do anything. And we ended by the comfort, being comforted by Christ, that He is our Father. He holds us close when our father and mother abandoned us, and we can find comfort in Him. And so, as we end this time, this message, I want to pray for all of us for a moment. And I pray that God was able to speak to you specifically to your heart, wherever that is. Okay. And I just pray that He comforts you tonight. And maybe when you listen to this message, like, oh, this sounds good. It's a little irrelevant because my parents are awesome. But maybe you just need to be reminded that He holds you close, that He is right there, that even if you have the best relationship with your family, He's like, hey, I want you to know that I'm your father too. I'm your good, good father. I am your perfect father. I am right here and my arms are wide open and I want to embrace you. I want to love you. I want you to be with me for eternity. Do you say yes to me? Do you allow me in? And so if you're here tonight, you say, you know what, actually, I want to just say, hey, you know what, Jesus, I've been wondering, like, I've been kind of like, yes, I'm interested in following Christ, but I'm a little bit, I'm just thinking about it. And maybe tonight you're like, I think I'm ready because I realize that Jesus is safe. I realize that He is good and He will never abandon me. He will never leave me. And if that's you, I encourage you tonight to even say a prayer between you and Jesus and accept Him in your heart. Make that decision. But I'm going to go ahead and pray for all of us tonight. And God, I just pray right now that you would just comfort all of these women here. You know all of our lives, our upbringings, our past, the details of our lives, the longings of our heart, our pains and our joys. You know it all. And I just ask, God, that right now in this moment, you would comfort everybody. That if anyone here is filled with worry or doubt or filled with tears, that you would comfort them, that your Holy Spirit would literally, tangibly surround them and fill them, and that everything that they're thinking about would grow quiet as they just learn to lean on you and know that you hold them close no matter what it looks like, that you are faithful, that you love them, that you are a father to the fatherless, and that you are so good, God. And I just pray that you bless every woman right now with the simple touch of your comfort. In Jesus' name, amen. I hope you found encouragement today. I'd love to connect with you. You can find me by following Lauren A. Hargrove on Instagram or Facebook. And before you go, can you do me a favor and leave a rating and review for this show? I would greatly appreciate it, and it would help other moms better find the show too. With that, thank you for being a part of our community today, and until next time.